Hi and welcome to Real Talk Business, where I try and talk for everyone and not just the few. And what you're about to hear is not financial advice, but purely for educational purposes based on my own experience and things that I like to share with you guys. Today I'm going to be talking to my younger self, or anyone that's in their teens, early 20s, and thinking about what they should be doing next. When I was that age, times were different. Yes, I know I'm getting old, whatever, I understand. At the same time, we didn't have access to the same sorts of things that are available now. Times are different. The accessibility to apps, data, anything like that is just incredibly different. It wasn't like that back then. So if I could give myself one piece of advice looking back, what would it be? Other than buy Bitcoin in 2012, but that's for another story. The main bit of advice that I would actually give is invest early, and I have kids ranging from 7 to 17, and this is something that I'm very keen to pass on, as it's something that I've only learned more recently or in my later years now compared to when I was younger in my 20s or in my late teens. It just wasn't advice that was passed on to me because traditionally that wasn't the way that people were brought up. It was the standard: you go to school, you go to university, you get a good job, and then that's your life. You just work through it, just like most people are taught. And so now I'm very keen to pass on this newfound information, or information that I've learned and experience that I've learned in my more recent years, to my kids, to you guys, or people that are looking to invest. Now, like I said, back in when I was 18, 20, that sort of age, I'm pretty sure you had to phone someone to buy stocks and shares. Like I said, the accessibility to these sorts of things nowadays is incredible. Like within minutes you can be investing, which is obviously quite daunting and scary for some people, but equally it's a great opportunity. And while I can't change the past and go back and start investing at 18, one of the things I can do is, like I said, pass that information on to my younger generations, or my future generations, being my children, or you guys as well. So for me, being able to invest early isn't about setting yourself up for retirement. Everyone sees this retirement as they get old, and gosh, by the time that, if you're in your late teens, early 20s now, by the time that you're looking to retire, I mean, I'm already looking to retire about 70, 75 based on the current age ranges, and God knows what that will be like in the future. So you don't really want to wait till that time. Like, I don't want to wait till I'm 70 before I can actually then enjoy my life, and I'm pretty sure you don't. Like, there's more to life than that. Like, we should be aiming to retire early, and trying to set yourself up early on for that is incredibly important, and it's easily accessible. Like I said, it just takes a bit of financial planning up front. And that's just a bit of financial literacy and understanding that if you save, you won't get yourself to retirement. But if you invest consistently and put that away for the future, that will set you up, or can set you up for the future with just a small amount. Like, I'm talking just a small amount. If you put $100 away every month into an ETF, for example, and if you don't know what an ETF is, something like the S&P 500, I will have another video that digs into that. You can look at one of my other videos on passive income. That gives you a bit of an understanding of what an ETF is, but I will do a full video on what an ETF is and more in detail about those sorts of things. Like I said, nowadays it could not be easier to put a percentage or a small bit of your salary every month, your wages, into an investment or investing into stocks and shares or an ETF fund. And that's why I really wanted to share. Sometimes it's quite daunting, you don't know where to start. I wanted to share my personal favorite app to use for complete beginners for investing. Now, I know there are many different options out there, and some of you might disagree with my choice, but like I said, this is based on my experience and the different apps that I've downloaded and used, and this is based on being a complete beginner. There are other options, and again, from my geographic location, I'm currently based in France, so I had to use the ones that were available to me in my area, and I'll explain a bit more. And before I start as well, full disclosure, this is not a sponsored video. I do not work with this company. I do use the product myself. I have the app, and there will be a link in the description so you can sign up as well. And if you do use this link to sign up, you will get 2 free shares, and I will get a share as well, so that full disclosure. Otherwise, this is not a sponsored video, just based on my experience. So the app is BUX Zero. Their headquarters in Amsterdam and in London, but they have coverage throughout about 9 different countries throughout Europe: Netherlands, United Kingdom, Germany, Sweden, Austria, France, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and Denmark. So pretty good coverage across Europe itself. So obviously one of the biggest questions, especially for beginners and when they're a bit daunted by the whole experience of buying into shares or buying shares and investing in this way, is my money safe? So one of the first things I look at in a new product or an app, especially when it comes to money, is where are they founded, how long have they been, who are they backed by, and how much money is safe when it comes to what they cover in their insurance and things like that. So I checked, and they're covered for up to 100,000 euros in coverage there. So unless you're putting in more than 100,000, I mean, especially for a beginner, I'm pretty sure you're safe. One of the other things I think is incredibly important, especially when starting out, is the account creation. How difficult is it for me to start investing? How difficult is it for me to create an account and get going? If they make this difficult, especially in this area of investing, sometimes the sign-up process can be quite long-winded, it can be quite cumbersome, and it can be quite drawn out, where you have to put lots of different information, lots of different checks and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, you still have to fill in tax information, you have to upload your verification and things like that, but nowadays this is very slick and it's built in very well to the app. So to do this, it only takes a couple of minutes. It asks you a few questions, asks you about your investing experience as well, and within a few minutes, it will go off and do some verifications. This can take a couple of minutes to maximum kind of an hour, but for me, it literally took a couple of minutes to verify my passport, and then it came back and my account was created. So for that, it was a very, very easy process, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I had no issues with sign up, it was super slick, and within 5 minutes, I was all set up and ready to go. Next, a big important factor for me is the UI, user experience, the interface. If it's not easy to use, then I'm not likely to use it, and especially I'm not going to recommend it for beginners, because you need to be able to find what you're looking for. Is it in the place that it makes sense? The last thing you need is something that's confusing, especially when you're a beginner in this space. So user interface is a big thing for me. You can see on the screen now, you have your portfolio on the left-hand side, then you have the watch list, so you can watch different shares, you can pick which ones you want to track, and keep them on your favorites, so to speak. Then you've got your discover, where you can search for new things to invest in, which is actually quite in depth. It's quite good. I like the way it breaks things down. It gives like top losers and gainers for the week, or their top picks of things to look into, different funds and things like that. So the discover part I think is really quite useful. And then there's the news on the side. So if you really want to dig into it, you can then start reading some of the news articles about different sectors and things like that. And up at the top corner, then you have your profile area, where you have the ability to deposit funds and things like that. You can also deposit funds in the portfolio area, and I'll go into the ease of deposit funds later. But the user interface is actually very easy. I'm not the biggest fan of the color scheme, but that's just my personal preference. But from a pure ease of use, I think it's actually incredibly easy to use, which is again one of the reasons why I'm recommending this product, because I found it incredibly easy to use. And from a beginner's point of view, taking that perspective, I thought that this would be a really good one too. Everything seems pretty self-explanatory, and for that reason, I'm going to give it again an 8 out of 10 for the UI and ease of use on that. The next one is depositing of funds. You've signed up, you can work your way around the app, but you can't invest unless you have money in the app in the first place. So obviously that's a really key part to get you started on your journey, so how easy it is to get money in there. And I think this is one of the things that they've taken some time to really look into as well, because I found this process actually really simple too. Again, one of the reasons I'm recommending this is because I did find this process so simple. There are a couple of things that, well, one thing in particular, and I'll go into that. So the way it's set up is you can deposit funds using a bank transfer. So it tells you all of the beneficiary details you need to put into your bank to be able to send that over. I use Revolut, so for me, one app to the other, very simple, and it, again, free, didn't cost a thing to transfer the money in there, doing the bank transfer, and it was in there within, again, about 5 minutes. So 5 minutes from sign up to getting money in, so 10 minutes in total, and you're ready to invest, and it's cost nothing at this point. I do have to say though, some of the more mature or bigger apps that I use for investing, they do have more ways to get your money in there, so you can deposit via debit or credit card, things like that, or in many other different ways. So From that point of view, it is slightly limited, which is why I haven't given it a higher score, but I have to say for ease of use and getting money in there, especially nowadays, I think that this is sufficient. But for that reason, that's why I'm only going to give it a 7 out of 10, purely because it didn't have some of the added features of being able to deposit by credit or debit cards. Particularly debit card for me, I find that feature very useful. It's just easier. But again, the deposit via bank transfer took minutes, and again, it was free, no charge for this. Whereas sometimes there is a fee when you deposit via debit or credit cards. Lastly, let's get into the crux of the matter here, the features. This is what we're talking about. And for me, not being a total beginner, I would look for more different sorts of features, but when I'm looking at this from a pure beginner's point of view, if you're looking to get started, that's what I was kind of focusing on here. For one, BUX is only available via an app. There's no web app or website available to be able to do your trading online. Me as an older generation, I quite like having that web app availability, so I do some of my stuff with other trading sites using the website, but for the younger, more beginner generation getting into trading, I'd imagine just having an app is completely sufficient. In fact, if I asked my 17-year-old next year when he's 18, he probably wouldn't even consider logging in via a website. Another thing that isn't offered is a practice area. So some places and some apps do offer a practice area so you can use fake money, so you can pretend you're like Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street, and make yourself millions in a fake area before you actually try with real money. But for the most part, this doesn't tend to matter. If you're serious about just putting some money away and investing it for the long term, this isn't really something that's a necessity. It's just quite nice to have and fun to play with. So with BUX, there are around 2,000 shares and stocks on offer over 7 different financial markets. And currently I think around 30 different ETFs as well, which again, from a beginner's point of view, it covers most of the things you'd ever want, especially when it comes to that ETF side of things. As you start to advance a bit more, you might want a few more options than that, but very much for a beginner, this covers most of the bases that you would ever want. The fee structure is fairly simple as well. So if you buy a share from the European market, it's €1 per order. So if you buy any share, it's just €1 per every time you place that order. If you place an American order, so buy a share from an American market, that is 0.25% charge. Now they do have a special order, which is the BUX order, which is an order that's executed at the end of the day. So it means that it's put in right at the closing of the market on that day, which could go for or against you depending if you care or not, or you just want to buy it and you're not that bothered, which means that the order is for free. So if you put this BUX order in, it does it at the close of the market, no matter what the price, it just puts it in, and that's what you've got. But the bonus is it's free. So you do get that ability to have completely free trading if, again, you're investing for the future, you're putting your $100 in, €100 in, £100 in, whatever it might be, every month, you can have that so it's done for free. In your portfolio as well, you can set up investment plans where it allows you to invest in things like stocks and ETFs automatically. So you could say, again, I want to invest this 100 whatever currency that you use per month, and then that will automatically invest it on a certain day. One of the things I found that I couldn't do with this, and it might just be me being a complete and utter boomer, I don't know, if I was adding, say for example, the S&P 500 into this investment plan, it wouldn't then allow me to buy like partial shares of that. It will want me to buy an entire share with that investment plan. So I don't know if that's one of the limitations with it, but either way, you can set up these plans if you so want to. You can equally just deposit an automatic deposit of €100, dollars, pounds, whatever, every month, and then manually make that trade using the BUX free trade as well. With the investment plans, it costs, doesn't matter how many shares or stocks you put into this investment plan, it will only cost $1 to execute that. So that is one of the bonuses there. But at the same time, one of the things that I do, if it was me personally, I'd set a recurring bank transfer that goes into the app every whatever, just after payday for your €100 or whatever. Then I would manually create the BUX order at the close of the market, which would be free. So this would mean that it would cost me nothing to be able to execute these orders every month. I think that's it from the functionality of the app. Other than that, it is fairly simple. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for functionality, just because it lacks some of the things that I would like to see. That fractional share ownership when it comes to the ETFs and things like that would be a bonus in the investment plan. But again, from a beginner's point of view, I do think it offers, for the most part, all the things that you would expect, and all the things that I would expect as a beginner to be able to then start investing. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for features. And would I recommend BUX? Well, obviously I'm making this video, so I would recommend it. Like I said, there'll be a link in the description if you would like access to free shares. You can get free shares, and some of them have the value of up to 200 euros as well. So if you set up an account, you get the 2 shares. You don't know what those shares will be. For example, like someone else I know signed up through my link and got they deposited 10 euros, just 10 euros in their account, and they got shares worth 20 euros back. So, I mean, that's not bad. And while it doesn't do things like Forex and crypto, I think, again, when you're focusing on just using this for pure investing in stocks and shares, and particularly ETFs, which I would 100% recommend if you're starting out, don't go and try and pick the next Tesla or things like that, because it's a really hard thing to try and beat those markets. But what you can do is lump it into an ETF like the S&P 500 and just routinely do that. And I will talk about that again in another video. I'm sure there'll be many that will have a different sort of opinion from me. I'm sure others will say, what about this app, what about that? But again, I am coming from purely my own experience, apps that I have tried, and I've tried quite a few. And I really wanted to go for the ease of sign up, ease of use, ease of depositing, and functionality. The things that I would really care about as a beginner, just trying to invest without that much thought going into it. So this is exactly where I come from. But at the same time, if you have comments, you want to give feedback and stuff like that, please do drop a comment. I'm always willing to listen. While I do have a BUX account myself as well, one of the things I use other apps as well, so more advanced apps with a few more features. So I will do a video on some of the other apps I use, some of the more advanced trading platforms that I use. Not crazy ones, but intermediate. So I have them at different levels. I have the beginner, I have kind of intermediate, then I have the more advanced stuff. So I'll do a video on some of those things as well and how I use them. So that will be a video coming up soon. As always, I hope you find this video useful. If you're a complete beginner to investing and you've never thought about it before, one thing I would 100% recommend is starting today. It's never too late to start investing. It's way better than saving. Saving in your bank account will not help you retire early. Investing can. So although yesterday is a better day to invest, there's no better day than today. So start your investing today, use the link below to sign up, and until the next video, hope you enjoyed it. Peace.